Let's talk about how do we get our files out into the SSH once we have everything ready to go. Our index page is written and our folders are ready to go to load up so we can see this live. Couple of things before we go out there. I don't know if you remember from the last video, but I kind of laid out an example of what a page might look like. So I wrote out a nav, I wrote in a main, a body, I put in a wrapper, just some basics. I added some to this page, so I'd like to go over a few things just before we head over and take a look at how to get these live. I did in my main put a image because we do need some pictures on our web pages. They give meaning, make it informational. So I put a picture out here. Your images all have to be in their own folder, so you can see this example.gift. I put it in a folder called images. I gave it an alt tag, I gave it a height, a width, and I also gave it a fig caption because I kind of like to do that. So I put this above my paragraph, and then I wrote my paragraphs. If you notice too, or remember, that little space I had between my main and my footer, it wasn't bleeding all the way over, so I put a little break code in there just to make my main extend on down to the footer. You can work BR codes in your code to do all kinds of things like that for you. Also, as a requirement for your project, you have to have your email address out here with the correct code so that when I click on it, it will send it straight to your to a mail server so I can send you an email. So it has to be your @emeraldcollege.com email. So if we put that in, mail to, I put that in my footer and left everything else the same. If you look at the style sheet, everything about some of this new stuff I put in my code, it needs to have some style, some stuff to make it pretty, to make it meaningful. So if you remember correctly, I had body written, I had wrapper written, I had a nav written, but I also wanted to make my nav a little bit more useful, a little bit prettier, a little bit nicer for my user. So I wrote in some pseudo class along with my nav. So on the nav, I wrote in a nav A text decoration none. That just tells it, hey, don't underline any of my nav. I don't want that. And then I wrote my pseudo class to link, visit, and hover for some different colors on each one of those. On my nav UL, if you remember correctly, I had dots beside the nav. I took those out and told it list style type none. Gave it a little padding, told it to align left, and we're off and running. I did my nav LI and gave it a little padding in between each word, so we're good with the nav. In the footer, I also was a little upset because my at copyright 2018, I couldn't hardly see it, and so I went ahead in my footer and told it to everything in the footer to give it some color of here white. I also had to write in some code for that figure, so I had to give it a width. I went ahead and put a little box border around it with some padding, and I also gave my fig caption some CSS as well with the font family and text align. You could have even went so far as to do some color or a different type of font family, whatever you needed to do. So this is all saved. I'm going to go back to my index page. I'm going to go up here to run, and let's launch this in Firefox and see what it looks like. So here's my page. Here's that picture. Here's that nav with that pseudo class, and you can see that home is the one that we're on, so it has a different color because it's been visited. And as I hover over these, they're lighten up with some different colors, and as they've been visited, they'll have a different color to them as well. Everything in my footer was supposed to be white, but if you notice the email Karen Boatman, it's not. That's because we have to actually go in here and tell it, hey, I want that anchor tag to be white as well. So I'm going to go back over here to my style sheet. I'm going to take a look at this, and I'm going to write in just a little anchor tag that will tell it to color that text white. You might be thinking, hey, is this going to affect my nav? Well, it shouldn't. And the reason I say it shouldn't is because in our nav, we specifically told it to be an anchor nav, not just a straight anchor. If we would have left nav off of this, then any anchor tag would have had this link, visited, hover, text decoration, and all the fine things that we wrote with the nav A's. And so if you want an anchor tag to be specific, then I could have actually come in here and said footer A. So any anchor tag that I put in the footer would be colored white. So let's see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and save all, come back over here to my page, refresh it, and what we're looking for now is, hey, my anchor tag is white, and notice it didn't mess with anything over here in my nav. So we've got our page fixed up. It's ready to go. By the way, this, if I was looking at this, I would probably say, hey, change that. You've got too much white space. So I would move this text to be beside this picture. Just put a clear out here and you should work fine for you. But I would tell you, hey, too much white space. So this is not a good thing when we're looking at a web page. So I'm ready to go. This is looking like I wanted it to look. So let's go out to the SSH. That's the yellow folder with the blue dots on it. I'm going to simply click and open it up and do a quick connect on that. So we're going to go cis.actx.edu. You're going to put in your username. Mine's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be port 22 and hit connect. I'm going to ask for a password. Ask for a correct password. And it's going to open up, it's going to ask if you want to add a profile, and you can. So here is your SSH. You should see public_HTML. This is where all of your files go. So I'm going to double click public_HTML. It should be empty. You should not have any files in here. This on the left hand side is everything you do have on your computer. Now sometimes I find it a little bit of a daunting task to go over here and find my files. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a shortcut. So I've got my semester files open. It's in my semester project. It's on my desktop, but I just need these files. So this is exactly what needs to go inside public_HTML. So I'm going to highlight these files, drag them over, drop them in, and now your website is live. So you say, well, how do I know? I want to test that out. So I'm going to close that. We don't like to leave our SSH open because it leaves a hole in our network. So I'm going to disconnect and say, okay, we don't need this anymore. Our files are live. I'm going to go ahead and close it. And I'm going to open up Chrome because I already had this open in Mozilla. And let's open up a new tab on our browser. Type in cis.actx.edu/tilde. That's that very top button on your keyboard on the left hand side. If you'll hit shift and that button, that's called a tilde. Type in your username and hit enter. If you named all your files correctly, you should see your live website. Now if you want to see the code behind this website, you can right click on it and say view page source, and guess what? Here is all of the code that is associated with this website. And you say, wow, I want to see the style sheet that goes along with this too. Well, you can see it as well. If you'll right click on that link for the style sheet and say open in a new tab, now you have the website open, the source code for the actual page, and here is the code that goes along with the style sheet. So if there was anything here that you kind of wanted to copy or take a look at just a little bit better, there's how you do it. If you have any questions about anything I've shown you, something's not working, check your links, check how you've written your code in your source code. So usually it's a link that's not working correctly. And then if you still can't figure it out, hey, let me know. I'll be glad to look over your code. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to help.